Good evening all. So today's topic is nuclear doctrine. India had a nuclear doctrine which is popularly called as NFU, no first use. That means in India in any cost we are not going to use the nuclear weapon for the first time. Yes, we will be using the nuclear weapon for the sake of retaliation, but not for the sake of initiation of the war. So there is a discussion going on in the departments and the ministries. Recent Council of Ministers told that we are ready to change our nuclear doctrine from no first use to first use policy. In this particular context, there is requirement of understanding the concept of no first use nuclear doctrine. So no first use policy, nuclear doctrine. Recently, the Union Home Minister tweeted that India's commitment to a posture of no first use of nuclear weapons depends on the circumstances. That means it depends upon the circumstances. So it's not sure that we are going to maintain our own no first use. It depends on the circumstances. If the circumstances evolves, there is a chance that we might use the nuclear weapons for the first time. So this has created diplomatic errors across the sections of the world, mainly with respect to China and Pakistan. Why? Because those are the two adverse countries with India. We had adverse relationship with these two countries. Hence, these two countries are upright because of this particular statement given by the Council of Ministers. It is being perceived as a reminder of possible changes in India's nuclear doctrine. This particular above statement gives a clear identification that we are now ready to change our nuclear doctrine from no first use to first use. But there is ambiguity whether we are advocating first use or whether we are advocating the earliest no first use. There is ambiguity. Why? Because there is no clear identification or no clear mark with respect to what type of doctrine we are going to follow. So in this particular context, when was the nuclear doctrine adopted? India released its draft nuclear doctrine in August 1999 and it was adopted in 2003. The nuclear doctrine of India was adopted formally in 2003. From 2003 onwards, we started adopting no first use policy. So this is the official formal doctrine, nuclear doctrine of India, that is no first use policy. What does no first use policy says? No first use policy refers to a pledge or policy by nuclear power not to use nuclear weapons as a means of warfare unless first attacked by an adversary using nuclear weapons. So never we are going to use our nuclear weapons. Never ever we are going to use our nuclear weapons. Of course, we are going to use nuclear weapons when our enemy uses nuclear weapons on us for the first time. Then on retaliation we will be using the nuclear weapons. This policy says that nuclear weapons will only be used in retaliation against a nuclear attack on Indian territory or on Indian forces. Then only we are going to use this particular nuclear weapon as a retaliation measure. Nuclear retaliation to a first strike will be massive and designed to inflict unacceptable damage. So this particular nuclear retaliation, if it is happening or we are using for the nuclear weapons for the first time in the war, it is going to have an irrevocable damage to the society, to the world. Hence we need to have a proper restrainment while changing our nuclear doctrine. In this particular context, why India adopt no first use? So there might be some reasoning that India why adopted NFU. India's NFU is not perceived as a strategic choice but a cultural one. We are culturally tolerant, we are culturally patient, we follow Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. All people live together, universal brotherhood, peaceful coexistence. These are all our characteristics of our culture. So in order to maintain our culture, we have the nuclear doctrine called as no first use. So culturally we are promoted to use the no first use policy. Why? Because we have the nature of tolerance. Nuclear weapons of India act as a deterrent to two hostile neighbors, Pakistan and China. So how it then, why you, if tolerance, universal brotherhood, peaceful coexistence is your characteristic, then why you are manufacturing nuclear weapons? That will be the next question. And the answer for it is, we have a neighborhood, which is adversary neighborhood, enigmatic neighborhood. In order to address them, we need to have some deterrent power. By showing our power, they should be on their own toe. So in order to have the deterrence, the government of India manufacturing nuclear weapons, and because of the manufacturing of weapons, we are again showing that we are culturally unique, we are culturally tolerant, hence our policy is no first use policy. So culturally determined nuclear doctrine is no first use. Pakistan is the most hostile to India. India receives threats from Pakistan mostly. So we receive threats from the Pakistan. In order to have a deterrent power, we have nuclear weapons. A nuclear first strike means either the launching of an initial nuclear attack before one's opponent is able to use any strategic weapon, an initial attack on an opponent's strategic nuclear forces. So two things for the first time we can do. Before any enemy attacks us, we can go with a nuclear bomb, number one, or if not, make a nuclear bomb and attack on the nuclear forces, on the nuclear bombs which is there in a nuclear station. For this particular thing, you can use first policy, which India tries to have. If we are going to have first use policy, then if we use like this, then we are going to use our weapons for the first time, and we are going to target the nuclear power stations, nuclear manufacturing bomb, where the manufacturing production of the nuclear bombs is happening. So there is a positives and negatives, whether we have to go for no first use or whether we have to go for first use. So this particular stand of leaving away, doing away with the no first use is creating ramifications across the global powers. USA, NATO, China, Pakistan, everybody are worried now. All the nuclear powers are also becoming very strong. They are, by seeing India, they will also tell that we will also put aside no first use policy. We will also have first use policy. So it will create an unnecessary atmosphere of war. Which country had adopted NFU earlier? China. China declared its NFU policy in 1964 itself and has since maintained this policy. But NATO allies don't subscribe to this policy. NATO forces are against the no first use policy. They are ready for the first use policy if some country is planning to attack on them. Where the concern lies, revoking the commitment to NFU does not necessarily equate with abandoning restraint. However, it makes India's doctrine more ambiguous. So this particular stand of a minister makes ambiguous statement, creates confusion whether we are going for no first use or whether we are going for first use. This ambiguity can lead to miscalculations in global politics. China may also revise its nuclear doctrine. It can create chaos in the South Asian region. Hence, in long run, what will happen means there will be arms race, there will be nuclear weapons race. Every country will be aspiring to manufacture more nuclear weapons. So it will create an atmosphere of competition in order to manufacture, produce more number of nuclear arms. So this is the thing. This is my Gmail ID and this is the Quora about, and a Telegram channel. Please join in this particular Telegram channel. Everyday current affairs we are pumping into it, and subscribe to my channel VISHNU VARDHAN P. Thank you.